My Lords, I thank the noble Lord Seeker for tabling the amendment, and to which I was delighted to attach my name. And it's a great pleasure to follow the noble lady Baroness Bowles of Berkhamsted and welcome her support. I don't think I need to add to Lord Seeker's detailed forensic presentation of the clear, obvious systemic problem that ministers intervene to end or direct investigations into fraud, corruption and malpractice. And as the noble Lord clearly documented, they do that on what appears to be a semi-regular basis. This amendment seeks to stop that, or at least make it illegal. Who could argue that it should not be? I certainly look forward to examining any contributions that seek to do that. We have an institutional culture of cover-up, as the noble Lord said. We can't be sure that every case has been exposed. Indeed, it would be very surprising if it had been, despite the often extraordinary efforts of investigative journalists and academics, such as the noble Lord Seeker himself. We are most likely seeing the tip of an iceberg. That what has been done only emerges later, dragged into the light of the day despite considerable resistance, is of considerable detriment to public and international trust in both the financial sector and the British government, as the noble lady Baroness Bowles was just highlighting. Now, I think the most useful contribution I can make to this debate is to the politics and the sociology. And here I mean the politics with a small p, for as the noble Lord Seeker demonstrated, this kind of behaviour is not contained to governments of any particular political hue. The noble Lord Seeker said in his introduction, ministerial cover-ups have emboldened banks. Behaviour that tolerates, supports, enables dishonest and corrupt practices, encourages the spread of those practices. If there are indeed only a few rotten apples, which I'm sure many from the financial sector will claim, if they remain in the barrel, the rot will spread. Those people will still be in place in institutions, in many cases in very senior places within those institutions, and be sharing, passing down, directing others to continue their practices, approaches and morals. I have an agricultural science degree, my lords. I can promise you the rot will spread through the barrel. We are now without the protective umbrella of EU regulation, what was once seen as a force independent of one particular financial centre that enforced some degree of cleanliness among all of them, albeit that the UK had an inordinate influence, often a baleful influence, on attempts to tighten regulation and prevent fraud and corruption. With the UK making its own rules, the behaviour of both the UK government and the UK financial sector will come under great scrutiny. The EU is, not coincidentally after the UK's departure, looking in the coming years to significantly tighten regulations on tackling fraud and corruption, on stopping tax dodging, on preventing greenwashing, on reining in the inordinate economic power of the internet giants. What happens in the UK will be weighed against that, which is why tightening up this bill with this measure and others is crucial. What we need is not a more, quote, competitive financial sector, but an upgraded one that is honest, straightforward and trustworthy. There's also the politics in the broadest sense, the issue of how the government is regarded, something that is a long-running, serious issue for the UK. The place of politicians at the bottom of trustworthiness rankings is a source of jokes, of bitterness, but also a serious and significant problem for our body politic, one that has to be tackled. And this amendment, a legal commitment to honesty and transparency, would be a significant step. We've seen from many sides of politics that people believe we have a government of the few, a government for the money, a government for the City of London, to the detriment of the country. This has to change if we are as a country to go forward. I'm going to finish, my lords, with a quote. The open quotes, "Trend towards globalised corruption has been enabled in crucial part by regulatory asymmetries among key international economic actors and a lack of resources and political will in law enforcement." Close quotes. That, my lords, does not come from the Tax Justice Network or Transparency International. It comes from a foreword to a report from the Centre for American Progress entitled "Turning the Tide on Dirty Money," signed by Senator Robert Menendez, Chairman, US Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Tom Tugendhat MP, Chairman of the UK Foreign Affairs Committee, David McAllister MP, Chairman of the EU Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs. The authors say, open quotes, that corruption threatens the resilience and cohesion of democratic governments around the globe and undermines the relationship between the state and its citizens, close quotes. That's not a source I'm likely to be quoting from often, my lords, but it reflects a growing global understanding across the political spectrum, a fact that the noble lords who keep in this committee assuring us that everything's fine and clean and transparent and honest in the financial sector might like to reflect upon. It reflects what a few of us in this committee, the noble Lord Seeker, the noble Baroness Lady Bowles, Lord Davies of Brixton, the Right Reverend Prelate the Bishop of St Albans, and occasional other contributors have been saying, an upgraded financial sector with tighter controls and stronger enforcement are the crucial to the security of all of our futures. The amendment would be a modest, important step forward. I'm not necessarily expecting acceptance from the government today, although one can always live in hope, but I hope that the government will at least go away and think seriously about this and other upgrading measures proposed in this committee. Thank you, my lords.